Welcome to Thin Fat Line, the podcast that explores the line between loving yourself just as you are and the unhealthy and toxic things we do and say, sometimes in the name of health. Hosted by Whitney Andrews, a girl who has been coming to terms with her own journey of health and self-love for as long as she can remember. Warning, the following conversations may be triggering and may discuss sensitive topics. Please move forward as you feel comfortable. The goal of this podcast is to create a conversation and community of support and understanding. Welcome to Thin Fat Line.
Welcome everybody to the first installment of the Tiny Mike sessions. We got our messy bun in. We are getting really cozy and comfortable. I am in an oversized sweatshirt, my yoga pants, and my fuzzy socks for those of you that can't see me. We are just kind of going to go to town. I really wanted something that we could talk about things that happens kind of in between the edits and the planned episodes. So this is kind of the solution to that. So we're going to be talking about things that maybe trends that we see on TikTok, those memes on social media, just things that pop up in the day-to-day life that maybe didn't have a place in the schedule. So welcome to Thin Fat Line's Tiny Mike episodes, Tiny Mike sessions. That's what we're calling it. The Tiny Mike sessions of Thin Fat Line. So in this first episode, I want to talk to you a little bit about anxiety, and kind of the anxiety that's swirling and all that good stuff. So, and I'm going to tell it in, as always, my personal experience story. I want to hear yours. I want you to drop in my inboxes. Again, you can find us on Instagram at Thin Fat Line, on Facebook at Thin Fat Line. You can find me my personal Instagram at Whit Andress. You can find me on TikTok at Whit Talk Andress. I just want you to go slide in there. Our website should be launched sometime in the next 2 weeks, but I want to hear your stories. I want you to tell us your stories. And by us, I mean me and I guess my multiple personalities, because right now it's just me. But I want to hear your stories. I don't care if you're a professional. I don't care if you just have a story to tell. I know that this is all like deeply personal. How do you hold a tiny mic is what I want to know. So for those of you not watching the video that are just listening to this, I will post a picture, but it is the tiniest mic and I'm kind of in love with it. And I am just, I don't know how to hold it. Like, do I hold it at the string? I definitely think if you've seen that trend with Celine Dion where she's like, it's like people are lip singing and they're like, and if you touch me like this, and if you hold me like that, and then they get like all dramatic. I definitely think this mic is set up to do just that. So be prepared for that later on the Instagram. I'm going to wait a little bit. So we're going to talk about anxiety, but first let me tell you this story. So I'm really clumsy. It's just like, don't know where the ground is below me 9 times out of 10. I'm also noticing, if you're watching the video, the pictures behind me, these are Mississippi River plates, are really crooked. So, you're welcome. Okay. So back to the story, get the ADD in check. So I'm very clumsy. Last year, about this year, I slipped on our back porch. It was really wet. I was walking, and when I tell you I slammed my leg into the back steps, and I still have a lump on my leg. There was nothing broken. They did all the things. There's like, you know, when you run out of room to swell and stuff like that. I mean, they did all the tests, all the ultrasounds, all the things. And it was fine. It's just a whole lot of tissue damage. So it's still swollen. So I'm like thinking, y'all, just 2 days ago, I was thinking like, got really cocky about the fact that I was like, I haven't fallen this year and that's great and blah, blah, blah. And then I put on these dang fuzzy socks today because it's 37 degrees outside in Louisiana, which means that it might as well be like -2. And I put on these fuzzy socks and I'm walking downstairs, and you know when you feel it coming, like I felt it coming, and it was just like all the way down. So if you look, if you're in the video, I have like bruising down my hand. I don't even know what my elbow looks like. Let's look at it. Okay, it's not that bad. It's not that bad for people listening. I mean, like, it's a little bruised around it. I mean, I definitely whopped it, but I'm a little sore, so we're not doing any TikTok trends right now, which is where that whole story came from, in case you're wondering where we're circling. I'm going to get a better tripod. This one's kind of wonky that I'm using, so the video is shaky. But if the video is bothering you, just listen to it anywhere you get your podcasts. So enough with that. We're talking about anxiety. So the next podcast that's coming out on Tuesday will actually be after I have had my surgery. So if you didn't hear the first one, if you're just catching up, I am having bariatric surgery. I am getting the sleeve done. So vertical sleeve, blah, 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 VSG. So I've been on a liquid diet. So if you see me like kind of doing this, I'm now on clears. It's my clear protein drink. So I'm having that done Monday. So the next podcast, I decided to release. It'll release on Tuesday. It's just kind of talking about my motivations and stuff behind it, why I chose to do this for myself. Especially, one of my fears in relaunching this podcast is I felt like here I am, like size doesn't matter. It's not all about weight loss. And that I'm sharing, that I'm having this weight loss surgery. And for me, and a perfect example is, like I fell today and all I could think was, I hope I didn't break anything because I don't know that my joints would heal up properly. Or, like my husband's not going to be able to get me up the stairs or something like that. Where am I going to sleep? I'm not going to be comfortable. And like last night, every time the weather changes, my joints hurt really bad when we go hiking and stuff like that. And so we talked about that on the podcast. So you're going to hear all my motivations. Agree with them or not, it was my choice and it was something that I am 100% confident in doing. And I fully respect that it's not the choice that everybody else made. What I do know is that I did not make a decision on this surgery until I felt like, we talked about on the last podcast, my wellness wheel was pretty balanced. And that was the place that was like struggling right then and there. So here I am, you'll get that one, but I wanted to release something before then. And I'm probably going to record one of these Tiny Mike sessions. I'll be alone in the hospital overnight, kind of that night too. I thought that would be good about kind of my thoughts. If I have any thoughts and I'm too hopped up, like it's not happening. But I wanted to talk about kind of anxiety because my intention was not to get this surgery so close to Christmas, but it was kind of like the stars aligned and there's a lot coming up in 2022. And it just really was, if there was ever a perfect time, this was it. So I took the date when it opened up and there we are, here we are getting it done. So I, I'm normally fairly anxious around the holidays anyways. I am not somebody that was ever diagnosed with anxiety or generalized anxiety. I have never been. I would have hesitated to call anything I felt anxiety before. It's just that overarching like, oh, I'm just stressed out, But here we are. I have to cough. Sorry. I didn't know how sensitive these mics would be, so I wanted to cover it. So, but around the holidays, I've always felt some sense of anxiety because I think from a very young age, I felt this like expectation that everything needs to be right. Everything needs to be perfect. You are like, Christmas spirit needs to be high, everything. And quite frankly, some years are just harder than others. For no really particular reason. I don't feel like there's ever been any trauma around the holidays. I think it's just the busyness of the season. And it's hard to stay so positive and so merry when you just feel like you're running around with a chicken with your head cut off. I have chickens, and that figure of speech now has a whole literal meaning to me. But I think it's just the busyness. I don't mind myself being busy. I try not to stay busy anymore, but stay productive. I don't tend to be somebody that like wears busyness as a badge of honor. That was something that I really worked hard on taking off. But I think for a long time, I'm always doing something. And anybody who you ask would always be like, oh my gosh, Whitney's always throwing herself into anything and everything. And she just has 20 million things on her plate, which is true. And I've really worked hard on kind of funneling that in. That was a really great piece of advice that was given to me. So, and to stop wearing busyness like a badge of honor. And I feel like I've done a really good job of being purposeful about the things I choose to do. The holiday season, though, I feel like throws all that purpose into disarray. So it feels really busy. So add on top of like my normal kind of anxiety about the busyness of the season with the fact that I'm having surgery on Monday, and I feel like there is like a vice on my chest right now. There's just a lot to think about. I would be lying if I told you I wasn't nervous about just in general having surgery. Like, what is it going to be like? And I'm really trying to walk into this expectantly, like, this is going to be great. You're going to go do great through surgery. In theory, this is very routine. I'll be under anesthesia for 30, 45 minutes, I think. But I would be lying if I didn't say there is still some sort of anxiety about it. I don't really know where it comes from. And maybe it's important to have that anxiety because it keeps me in check. But I'm really just trying to kind of breathe and kind of walk into that expectantly. And so couple that with Christmas and everything like that, I thought about how it would be really important to talk about anxiety and how that affects just our overall health this season. And I know that no matter what, it's kind of like we all are going through stuff. And so we all have stuff to be anxious about. So I thought it would just be really important to tell you that you're not alone. And one of the greatest things that I've heard, and one of the things I'm trying to give myself grace and permission to do this holiday season is to not live in an anxiety and just kind of like succumb to it, but just kind of say, I'm going to love myself with grace. I don't have to set myself on fire to keep other people warm. So like, I don't have to pretend so everything's magical for them that I'm okay. It's important for me to be honest about where I am in my emotions, especially with myself and my husband. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to like back up. So my husband's actually doing a lot of the cooking for the Christmas dinner that we're having at our house. It's okay just to like ask for help. And I feel like this year I've tried to kind of make things magical and be like this Mary Meister. But it's important for me to just say like, hey, I'm tapped out, you know? And it's okay for you too as well. Again, one of my favorite things I've heard recently is that you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. And I think that's really important for you to hold, for me to hold for sure, and kind of decide what that means for you. Also, I found something that really helps in this season is I've been kind of journaling a lot. So sometimes that means writing in the notes section of my phone, and that's really helpful. And sometimes that means literally pulling out pad to paper and journaling, and I think that's really helpful. But you also, I want to remind you, you don't have to wait to the new year to take care of yourself, to set intentions, to be intentional with your self-care. And self-care isn't always baths and pedicures and manicures. Those are all wonderful things, and I fully support them. Sometimes it's sitting in the closet alone. Sometimes it's, doing a couple yoga moves. I was talking to a friend. I cannot even remember who I was talking to. If it was you, remind me. Who was I talking to? I did not mean to flip y'all off. Oh my gosh. So if you're watching the video, the people in the video just got flipped off just how I was holding my chin. So sorry. Get that bird down. ADD. But they have these like cards, right? And you can pull like a different yoga card. and you can get them at like the dollar store. At Five and Below, they have these like dice and they have yoga moves. It's a great way to kind of get the family involved in yoga, or just yourself, and just be kind of very intentional about it. Definitely wherever you are, I fully believe in the restorative power of yoga, especially like a restorative yoga or a yin yoga. Here where I live, Addie Lowry does yoga. She does it at the sanctuary. She does several yoga classes, so definitely look her up. And she'll do restorative yoga with movement, martial arts, and fitness. I'm not sure if movement, though, when they move to their new location, is going to do yoga. But Jada's going to be on. We're recording her episode next month, so we'll ask her. But Addie Lowry's great. Cheryl Jean is a physical therapist. She is really, really amazing. She does a yin yoga class, so she's here. And then Brandy Marie does like paddleboard yoga and stuff like that. I just really believe in yoga. So if you're in the Baton Rouge area and there's some sort of yoga that you are or a class that you think is amazing, Missy, I can't think of her last name right now, just opened Soulshine Yoga here in Denham Springs, and that's really amazing. So I know that if you're listening to this and you're not local, please, I would love for you just to comment on this video and just be like, hey, I'm in, Wilmington, Delaware, and this is a great place to kind of unwind, or this. Like, that is self-care, and I fully believe in the powers of yoga for my anxiety, so definitely don't write it off. Like, I'm not a super flexible person. I'm not like a yogi by any means, but it's helpful. So enough about yoga. My point is, find what self-care, and sometimes that self-care may be cuddling up in a big oversized sweatshirt, yoga pants, and fuzzy socks, and watching some Olivia Benson on some Law and Order SVU, and that is okay. And I think that's my thing is, if you're finding yourself anxious, figure out how you're going to take some time for you and be with yourself and breathe and kind of, I'm going to use this like woo word, manifest a calmer, more peaceful environment for yourself. And that's really kind of being super simple. And the other thing is, and I wish it went without saying, but I think there's still such a stigma. If you find yourself like this is a normal and you're just totally overwhelmed, there has been no better thing for me than counseling, therapy, something like that. Nothing has to be wrong with you. I think it's really important. I don't think that we're meant to go through this world alone. So definitely reach out. Reach out to a friend if you know somebody. If you have questions about therapy, counseling, what it's done for me, I'm happy to answer them, but find that. Wherever you are in this season, I want you to know that you're not alone. So one of the things that I am doing, especially over the next couple of days, is a lot of meditation. So I'm just sitting. I feel like I'm a really bad meditator, so I'm just sitting with myself, sitting with my thoughts, and giving myself permission to have those thoughts come through and exit my head. So like, I can think about it, but I don't have to live with it. The other thing that I am doing, like I said, is journaling, stretching, making sure above all else that I am getting rest. I slept terribly last night, felt like I could hear everything. But instead of throwing in the whole towel and being like, oh, I'm up now, I rested. I laid down. I forced myself to lay there in silence and solitude and peace, and let the thoughts come and go as they would. And I think that's really important, is to say, like, I am prioritizing this rest. I am not going to scroll through social. I am just going to lay here. So I'm anxious. I am anxious about the holiday season and the busyness, and I don't want to wish it away, but I'm definitely kind of like over it. But I'm so excited to see my kids' faces on Christmas morning. I'm so excited to do all the things. I'm excited to see family, and I think that's really important. So I'm trying to focus on all the things I'm really excited about, but I'd be lying if I didn't just say, like, there's part of me that's just ready for it to go. And I'm anxious about Monday. I am very anxious about Monday. Just not even like the aftermath. I mean, I'm sure that anxiety will come. But just the idea of anesthesia. I don't know why. I've had it before. I just am. And I'm trying to kind of walk into it with excitement and intentionality and just say, this is something that I am doing to improve my quality of life and to live a longer, healthier life in a way that I want to, in a way that treats me the best. And in that, I am making the absolute right decision for me. And, you know, I'm a person of faith, and I have much more purpose on this world and a much bigger purpose to fill. And it's going to be okay. And walk into it with that kind of expectancy. So wherever you are, whatever you're worried about, really kind of, I invite you to kind of write down those anxious thoughts. And a really good exercise is write down the anxious thoughts and then combat them with kind of like, okay, but what's the best outcome? What's the outcome that you really want? Like, and be expectant about that. So I don't know. That's my unsolicited. That's the first Tiny Mike podcast session, Tiny Mike session. I like this little guy. It's cute. It makes me feel super official. There's like a little thing that I could pin it to my shirt, but I definitely think we need to be holding it. And maybe I need to like hang it, like talk like, you know, like the ring masters in a wrestling thing. But yeah, that's the first Tiny Mike session. Tell me what you want to hear about next. We can do some of these live. I would love to bring you on to talk about them more. These are really just off the cuff and let's chit chat, right? Let's have a conversation. With that said, I think you're amazing. And if you got something from this, I would love for you to screenshot it, share it to your Instagram stories, tag me in it at ThinFatLine, and tell me what you got about it. As always, I will talk to y'all soon. The next podcast that drops is going to be kind of just about my motivations for weight loss surgery and kind of why I chose this for myself. And then we will be into the new year. There will be several other little Tiny Mike sessions, and we record with Jada Bruce of Movement Fitness. And then after that, we're recording with Hillary Goodman of Body Balance with Hillary. I might have said that wrong. I'm gonna get it right. But Hillary Goodman is really, I found her on TikTok. It turns out I used to work for her, and that's a whole other story, but I'm excited to talk with her. So we're gonna get into having some professionals on. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast and kind of sharing your story and what's been going on with you, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to have you on here. I'm really awkward with just talking, and as you can see, I go round in circles, so I need somebody across the table to keep me in check. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into ThinFatLine. I can't wait to chat with you again, and we'll talk later. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Thin Fat Line. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort, and we'll catch you in the next episode.